I, 42 female, have a niece Lily, 18 female. Lily is the result of an affair my ex-fiancé had with my brother while we were still together. I was led to believe Lily was mine throughout the entire pregnancy and almost signed the birth certificate before my ex confessed out of guilt that Lily was probably my brother's. We did a DNA test and Lily wasn't mine. During my teens, I got into an accident which left me infertile. The doctor said my chances of fathering a child were slim to non-existent. So you can imagine how crushed I felt when I discovered that not only I'm not going to be a father, but I was also betrayed by two people I loved. It's been years since, and I did well for myself. I'm the first in the family to attend university, and I landed a high-paying job right after graduation. I own my own business, invest in property, and since I'm both single and childless, I can spend my income however I please. My ex ended up marrying my brother. I'm somewhat cordial towards them, but I can't bring myself to fully forgive them for what they did. And although I know Lily is blameless, whenever I see her, I'm constantly reminded of how I was once overjoyed with holding her in the hospital, thinking she was mine. So I can't bear to look at her for too long. I didn't visit her growing up, didn't take her on fun trips or give her lavish gifts like I did for the rest of my nieces and nephews. I wasn't mean or hateful to her, but I will admit, I kept my distance. When my oldest nephew turned 18, I decided that I will pay for his college education, since I could afford it while his parents couldn't. I even rented him one of my apartments for cheap so he wouldn't have to worry about money and could focus on getting his education. Since then, I did the same thing for two of my other nieces. Last week, Lily approached me during a family event and inquired if I could pay for her education. I told her no. She then called me a jerk and asked why I was so distant towards her and her parents, to the point where I couldn't even do her the same favor I did for the rest of her cousins. I told her that her parents have enough money to afford her education, and asked her how she could possibly expect me to be okay with watching my ex and brother, who had an affair behind my back, play happy family in front of me. After that, Lily got quiet for the rest of the event and left early. I later got a call from my ex yelling at me for ruining her family. Apparently, she and my brother didn't bother telling Lily about what they did to me all those years ago, and now that she knows, she is so angry at them that she decided to live with her boyfriend's family. I'm starting to feel guilty that I told her the truth, since it affected her more than I thought it would. But at the same time, she is grown enough to know the truth, and I don't think I could have lied to her face, even if I wanted to. Am I the a-hole? I think your ex and brother made an unwise choice in marrying. Sooner or later, something was bound to happen. The only way they could have prevented it is by telling their daughter why you stayed away from her. Unlike some here, I don't think that you are at fault for treating her differently. Given the situation, I think it's remarkable you talked to her and her parents at all. Not the a-hole. I think ex and brother are the a-hole for their decisions and not explaining to Lily for 18 years. Not the a-hole. As someone in a family who likes to keep secrets, thank you for telling the truth. She deserves to know it, and she will appreciate it in the long run. It also gave her understanding on why her uncle treated her so differently, which clearly has plagued her. I'm sure her parents are upset to be caught in their lies for the second time in nearly 2 decades. But they are their lies. They are responsible for their lies and the consequences of them. They should have told their own daughter first. Someone was going to tell her eventually, inside or outside the family. My 10-year-old stepdaughter is a picky eater. She's lived with her father and I for the last 2 years and has an issue with dinner every night. I try to make stepdaughter-approved meals, but it will be the seasoning on the entree, the side veggies, the pasta sauce brand, the salad dressing, the drinks. There is always some reason she says she can't eat the family dinner. During the school year, I could deal with it pretty well. I packed her a lunch where I knew she enjoyed every ingredient, stayed stocked up on some of her preferred snacks, and adjusted her dinner, or made her a new one every night. Well, our budget has been tighter the last few months since grocery prices have skyrocketed, and now that stepdaughter is home for the summer, she is beginning to lose her crap over the bad groceries I keep buying. She needs name brand OJ, pasta sauce, and macaroni. I have finally agreed to buying some name brand only for those items. She hates sausage, wants ground beef only, but it is 2 times the price. She really wants steak or brisket, but it's 5 times the price. No nuggies anymore. She wants popcorn chicken, which is 5 times the price. Since summer began, she now wants all meals separated into buttered, salted carbs, veggies, stepdaughter-approved varieties, her name brand sauce, and a stepdaughter-approved meat. No cheese, sauce, or tiny bits of veggies mixed into anything. She hates leftovers, so no meal planning separate healthy options for her. She is for the most part a good kid, but this grocery and meal planning tyranny is frustrating. I want to make soups, intricate pastas, casseroles, exciting salads, and sauced meats. She constantly asks me to buy what her mom buys, but her mom is on maximum food stamps due to zero taxable income and 3 kids. Her mom can buy avocado, brisket, salmon, and seems to grab any dry goods stepdaughter wants. Usually, we just can't. I try to compromise with stepdaughter on her meal preferences, but it's always a long debate, and if stepdaughter isn't getting her way, she says the discussions stress her out, and she cries. Making dinner and grocery shopping is all about bending over backwards for stepdaughter now, and she is still not usually happy with what I make. It sucks. Update. A few questions I want to address. I have explained the budget to stepdaughter. We have the same amount of money for groceries we always did, but the prices keep going up. That's why stepdaughter and I have to debate individual grocery items and compromise. She's bringing up her mom's grocery budget lately to sort of say, well, my mom has not much money but could afford this. And I explained to her that this is due to food stamps. Her mom also brings in money flipping items she finds on Craigslist and Facebook. But that is untaxed, and we are not trying to stop her making a living. Just explaining to you guys how she gets max food stamps plus money to supplement. My stepdaughter hasn't seen her mom at all in 2 years, so she likely romanticizes her mom's shopping habits. My husband is very supportive and commends my efforts to accommodate his daughter and keep the budget in check. He always sides with me on this issue, but he works a lot and I am a stay-at-home mom, so I cook and look after the kids. I don't think kids should be able to dictate the house functions like that, especially when the prices are so high right now. Absolutely not. Kids don't make the rules, and if you let them, you're setting them up to be entitled high-maintenance adults that no one will want to be around. Kids follow what the adults say, or they deal with the consequences. She can just not eat, throw a fit, and go to her room. Next time, she'll realize she either accepts her choices or goes to bed hungry. No, you buy what you can afford, and she will eat what she will from that. She isn't going to starve over off-brand items. As my mother used to say, this isn't a restaurant. You don't like it? There's the fridge. Help yourself. Stop enabling her behavior. It will only get worse. Now, cook what you want to cook. This story occurs on my wife's side of the family, so I have a second row seat rather than a front row for most of this. This took place just this past weekend. My wife's Aunt Lois is a great lady. She and her husband live in the San Francisco Bay Area and bought their home in the late 1970s. After her husband passed a few years ago, she sold her home for well over $1 million and moved back to live closer to her family where she grew up, farming areas in Southern California. She's in her late 60s. Aunt Louise had 3 children, who are now all in their 40s. The 2 oldest are nice, normal people. I'm getting this story from Kay's oldest son. Her youngest, Kay, is a real piece of work. She meets all the criteria for a psychological diagnosis of narcissism. This is just one of literally dozens of stories I could tell. Kay divorced her husband about a year ago. She hadn't been happy, she never is, and figured the final way she could use him was to clean him out in divorce. She would later find out that their constant refinancing of their home to pay down credit card debt meant there was almost no equity in the house, and him having been foolish enough to keep cashing in his 401k meant no retirement account for her to plunder. I heard that when all was said and done, she got less than $10,000 in the divorce. She got to keep her car. She would always buy a new one every couple years. And proving how aggressive the court system is, she suffered the grave injustice of having to make her own car payments. Clearly, this was not going to fund her lifestyle, so she started running to Aunt Louise for a loan every single month. Because while normal people see Aunt Louise as a really nice person, Kay sees her as an ATM. After about $20,000 in loans over the past year, Aunt Louise asked Kay when she would be paying back the loans. At this point, without any shame at all, Kay asks Louise, "Can the loans be an advance on my inheritance?" I can't quite wrap my head around how someone can basically say, "You're taking too long to die, Mom. Give me my money now." It's a pretty ballsy remark, but eager to double down, Kay then asked Aunt Louise, "Oh, and I'm going to be a little short on rent this month. Can I borrow $2,000? To give some perspective here, Kay has claimed her rent is $2,200 a month. So with less than a week to go before rent is due, Kay has, or so she claims, less than 10% of her rent. Aunt Louise initially said no, but after Kay launched her standard tactic of passive-aggressive emotional blackmail posts on Facebook, Aunt Louise relented today, much to the chagrin of everyone who hates seeing this poor woman exploited. Sadly, there's no comeuppance or karma for Kay. Emotionally manipulating your own mother for $20,000 a year is her job, and she believes she is underpaid. No one is entitled to an inheritance. If your Aunt Louise decides to blow her money at the dog track, that's up to her. If she wants to give the lot to the Royal Society for the Protection of Wombats, great. For Kay to talk about an advance on her inheritance is presumptuous at best. I'm normally not one for loss of words. I own it. But I've got nothing right now. Jaw just flopped open. You just can't do things like that to your parent. Hopefully, the most incredible Aunt Louise has the best record-keeping books ever. The best and most responsible person appointed as executor of her estate. And when that time comes, Kay can get the proper explanation as to why she actually owes the estate money. And she also owes the IRS because she failed to disclose the advancements on her inheritance. I hope Kay's children take her as an example of a witch and not a person. This happened a few years ago, but it still gets brought up from time to time, so I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. For context, my husband and I, 38 female and 38 male at the time, have always had fertility issues. We struggled with conceiving our first child, and then we were told we couldn't have more children, so we decided to adopt our 2 younger children, 8 female and 8 male at the time. We love them just like we love our first child, and everyone in the family treats them equally, except their paternal grandmother, which is where the conflict comes in. My twins have a cousin who is also the same age as them. Let's call her Maria. Maria is the biological grandchild, so her grandmother, my mother-in-law, favors her more than my children, which really hurts them. She makes no attempt to hide it either, buying expensive and extravagant gifts for Maria on her birthday, which is a few months after the twins, and getting them presents from the Dollar Tree or something similar. Despite that, my sweet children always craved approval from their grandmother, but no matter what they did, she always favored Maria because my children aren't really a part of the family. One year, we were having a birthday party for Maria, and her grandmother got her a Barbie dream house just a few months after she got my children plastic ping pong rackets from the dollar store. My daughter in particular was distraught, and I could tell they were clearly hurt. While everyone else was enjoying the party, they asked me why their grandma hates them so much and why they aren't good enough. Seeing my children like that absolutely broke me, especially since I've done so much to be able to adopt them and be their mother. I've tried to assure them that they were absolutely wanted and good enough. I walked right up to my mother-in-law and demanded that she stop showing this blatant favoritism and start getting her act together, or she'll never see us again. We got into a big argument and we ended up leaving the party early. My husband thinks I was the a-hole because I made a scene at Maria's birthday and argued with my mother-in-law in front of everyone. While he loves our children, we've always had arguments because I felt that he was enabling his mother's behavior towards our children. Am I the a-hole? Yes, the a-hole, but only for the timing. There was absolutely no reason to do it at the birthday party of a child who was in no way involved. Your husband needs to grow a pair and get his mom in line, though. Everyone sucks here. What you said absolutely needed saying, but that wasn't quite the best time for it. Maria hasn't done anything, and her party got weird after that, I'm sure. Everyone sucks here, except the kids. Maria's party wasn't the place for your outburst. This is a serious issue that should have been discussed seriously and thoroughly. Get mad at your mother-in-law, yell at her, sure, but not during a kid's birthday party. Your mother-in-law is the biggest a-hole here, of course, and your husband gets a special a-hole mention for enabling her. He needs to grow a spine and defend his kids more. My parents had me as children, 22 female, 21 male. They were both uneducated and my dad barely made it out of high school. Since I was a kid, they've been pushing me to get good grades and go to college. "When are you going to college?" was literally my dad's catchphrase my entire childhood. When I turned 18, my parents had done good for themselves. They were making 6-figure salaries and afforded a pretty lavish middle-class lifestyle for our family of 4, including my little sister. When it was time for us to have the college discussion, they limited my over 200 acceptances to just 2 options: my alma mater, a prestigious HBCU, versus the redneck state school. I, as a black female, chose the HBCU where I had a scholarship. Since then, it's been non-stop complaints about how my student loans will negatively affect them and their monthly vacations to various Caribbean islands, mom's month-long trip to Cancun during virus, the matching set of new BMWs in the garage, and a second home they're attempting to build. Meanwhile, they continue to spend outlandishly to impress distant family they bribed down to see their new successful lives, including family that absolutely hates us. Whenever their fiscal decisions make money tight around the house, It always comes back to how my college loans are crippling their job prospects. Now they are threatening to not send my sister to college, despite putting the both of us through years of intense academic tutoring and private schools, so we could go to the big fancy colleges. Unless I permanently live at home with them and work underneath them at their jobs, so they can have a live-in sitter for my elderly grandma and more or less a maid cook for when I clock out. It's now gotten to the point where they outwardly shun my very serious boyfriend and my career plans for growing my own nonprofit and getting my PhD to teach, because they threaten their overly lush livelihoods. I'm a 25 female. How long do I have to wait for them to get their thumb off my back before I can have a family and life of my own? Am I being the a-hole for completing my educational plans like I was taught to do? Or is this something that has some validity? Because I've officially reached the point of running off and handling this my own way with my sister and boyfriend. Edit to answer frequent questions. I am paying my student loans myself. I am paying for grad school myself. Due to the reduction in payments during virus, I can apparently get them all in my name. Friggin' Sally Mae is the devil. But they're getting paid off on time and without their assistance. Definitely not the a-hole. They pressured you into a prestigious education and then started to gaslight you about the cost when you dared to get a good degree. See if your younger sister can become an independent. She'll get a ton of financial aid if she doesn't have any claimants, and if she's anywhere near as bright as you sound, I'm sure she can also find some scholarships. Your home sounds toxic as hell. Not the a-hole. Quite the toxic parents. Not sure how to advise since I don't know your family story or the impact of how you leaving them behind would affect you or your sister. All I can say is try to be financially independent from them as soon as possible.